Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
With Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, the professional wrestling. Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
It was the moment that either stunned the world or everybody saw it coming, but John Cena, for the 17th time, a world champion in WWE. Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling, our official episode 101. We did a minor recap / an instant reaction show last night after WrestleMania, but today, posting on Monday after WrestleMania, we have a special roundtable going through every match with some of your feedback. Joining us will be Stefan Bennett, Joe Aguinaldo, and Andy Evans, plus your feedback through our Yay Boo segment, which will be up on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. You can always leave your comments there. Join for free and join the family there. Now, as we do every week, want to thank you for being here, invite you to that Facebook page, but for just a couple more weeks, want to remind you that on that Facebook page is information how you can save some money by pre-ordering the latest run of Celebrate Wrestling t-shirts. We've got the Celebrate Wrestling Blue on Blue shirt, as well as the return of the GWO shirt for the guys in the alternate commentary table. Those are up for grabs now, but you'll only save money if you order them through me on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. We'll get you more details on that as we get closer to release date, but that's coming up at the end of May. So still time for you to get in there and get those shirts ordered. Do it now. Celebrate Wrestling on Facebook, which you can find the link through CelebrateWrestling.com. Other than that, if you want to contribute to the show in other ways, you can through PayPal at CelebrateWrestling.com. But we're always here for you, always free, and always about wrestling. And we've got a loaded show for you today. I mean, we're going through both nights of WrestleMania back to back, plus your feedback. So it's going to be a big one. Let's get right to it now, and that is some of the other headlines making their way after WrestleMania here with the 5 Count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
And this is just a shot across the bow to any casino owner, to any territory owner, to any promotion owner. You can't write me a check to bring me back. In December, I am done because of the promise I made to them. Whether I like them or I don't, at least I go out keeping my word. And for them to understand that they may have some unpacking to do in their own personal lives, I get to sleep sound at night. I'm good. December, I'm gone.
That was John Cena on the Pat McAfee show earlier this morning, explaining how when he's done, he is done. His last contracted match will happen in December with WWE. We don't know when or what event that's going to be, but presumably at the PLE to close out the show. But Cena says no amount of money will ever bring him back. While Cena didn't field any real questions at the post-show press conference the night before, the interview with Pat McAfee runs about 20 minutes and is definitely a must-watch. You can find that on the Pat McAfee Show YouTube channel. While WrestleMania week in Vegas had loads of independent events as well as loads of WWE events overlapping each other in some cases, one show you're probably not going to see a lot of footage from unless they choose to release it is the Roast of WrestleMania, hosted by Tony Hinchcliffe. Now, Tony is the star of Kill Tony and also the guy that broke through on the Roast of Tom Brady, which was Netflix's first attempt at doing live streaming comedy. Fans in attendance say there was a strict no recording policy, which meant no cell phones were out or capturing the show. However, fans also said that WWE cameras were there, so some of the content could make itself online, presuming they want it out there. Well, this was the first time that WrestleMania had fans seated on the stage at the entrance. You probably noticed them either in that balcony way up high or in the balconies that were situated on either side of the entranceway. Now, those seats were given to on-location VIP ticket holders. On Location is the ticketing service that WWE uses to sell their premium ticket experiences. And while prices varied in the thousands, some of those fans actually also got their own ring introductions before the show. I would totally consider financially ruining myself for that, although it wouldn't be that hard. There's also word coming out of the WrestleMania week that WWE is considering changing the WWE Hall of Fame altogether as far as time slot and, of course, length of the show. The show actually happened on the Friday night after SmackDown and before WrestleMania Day 1, seeing those on the East Coast watching the show till almost 3 a.m. While watching wrestling into the wee hours is nothing for our listeners over in the UK. Safe to say, when you have a show to do the next day, it puts a pretty tight squeeze on things. Nevertheless, WWE has no plans of scrapping the ceremony, but just finding a different way to do it. And if you're listening to this the day it posts, it's Raw after WrestleMania Day, which of course means it could be anything. Now, something I personally believe could happen with the new tag team champions of the New Day coming in and the recent title change in NXT, Fraxium could be making their main roster debut. They were in an incredible match against the Hardys not that long ago in NXT PLE. In addition to their impressive run as NXT Tag Team Champions, Nathan Frazier was, of course, also featured on SmackDown facing Rey Fenix. Well, don't go anywhere. In just a moment, we're going to run through the entire card, WrestleMania's days 1 and 2, and then get to your feedback with Yay Boo. It's all coming up on this special Monday edition.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Legends and Champions is your weekly fix to go old school, looking at the classic world of professional wrestling. From Hulk Hogan to the Hitman Bret Hart to the Icon Sting to the total package Lex Luger. We have it all each and every week on Legends and Champions, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Network. And it's available on a Wednesday with me, Andy Evans. See you there.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, as promised, we have a bit of a round table here for you as we go through the entire WrestleMania 41 card. Mike McGuire here, joined from the UK by Stefanos the Great, a.k.a. Stefan Bennett. Also, Andy Evans from Legends and Champions. And currently consuming bacon and eggs slathered in ketchup, the one and only Joe Aguinaldo.
Yay!
Yay, indeed. We're going to get to Yay Boos coming up in just a bit as well. But, gentlemen, we talked a little bit about it last night already, so we won't go into overall feelings of WrestleMania just yet, but we are going to go match by match, how you felt about things, how you felt about the results, and you know, basically how you're feeling after WrestleMania. So let's start off, first of all, with the opening contest. Well, let's start with the opening, and that is the video game advertisement with the dance crew and DJ that, as I mentioned in our immediate reaction, I didn't get, but I also realized wasn't for me. That was for the sponsor, really. Interesting way to kick off WrestleMania. A little different. No anthem, no America the Beautiful, no nothing like that.
Yeah, you could certainly tell it was a WrestleMania under the TKO era. Everything, from that presentation felt different. And I was the same as you. I didn't get it. I really did not get it. But I'm the only one, I think, out of everybody from Celebrate that loved that match and thought the result was brilliant.
We're not even talking about the match yet.
Oh, sorry.
We're literally just talking about the video game.
Just talking about the opening. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the UK. I'm excited to talk about WrestleMania.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so you know what? I don't think anybody else really has that deep of thoughts about it. So let's jump into it. Your kickoff match for WrestleMania 41. We saw it coming. We knew that it wasn't going to be the last match because that was saved for the triple threat. So if you can't be last, you might as well be first. Jey Uso, now your new World Heavyweight Champion after defeating Gunther. Andy, you want to jump into it? Go ahead.
You know what? I think this has not been the best build, but I enjoyed the match. I thought it made Jey look pretty good. It was a weird ending, with Gunther, getting the submission. But I thought it did everything it did on the tin. It got the crowd pop. They were up for WrestleMania Night 1, and Jey Uso deserved it. And I'm glad he walked out of there as the World Heavyweight Champion. The belt doesn't mean anything, but I'm glad he won it because it solidified his run.
Stefan Bennett, do you agree that title doesn't mean anything?
No, I disagree. The title means something. Of course it does. I agree with Andy, and this doesn't happen very often, me agreeing with Andy. But I think it delivered everything you need to. Again, the only thing I didn't like was the way the ending was booked. Gunther tapping out to a sleeper hold by Jey Uso was not in a million years the way I would have booked that. I'm just trying. For me, this is just my personal opinion. I feel that having Gunther tapping out to a sleeper by Jey Uso, kind of Gunther loses a little bit of his aura. and the sort of persona that he has. It for me wasn't the way I would have booked that. It was very strange to book it that way. But I was happy that Jay got the title. It was it is what it is. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Joe Aguinaldo, should Gunther have passed out rather than tapped out against Jey Uso?
I can see him tapping out, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a struggle as the heel, giving up and all that stuff. But I'm going to echo sort of what these guys have said. I'm happy for, but I thought the match itself didn't make sense because here's the thing, Mike. If someone tied me up and beat you up in front of me without me being able to help you, if I ever got my hands on these people, I'd want to rip their eyes out. And I didn't feel that intensity from Jay. And that was the disconnect for this match for me. Otherwise, it was a great entrance. It was a fun match. Didn't get the ending. The celebration at the end was fine, but the intensity just wasn't there.
You see, I disagree with that. I think that actually you did see the intensity from Jay because all the way through this, he was matching Gunther move for move. There was moments where the chops, from Gunther, as we know from him, were powerful, but Jay came back and he rallied through. So actually, I think he did match Gunther moment for moment, and actually it made Gunther look vulnerable. It made him look human, which I quite liked. But also, we've got a new streak at WrestleMania. Gunther is 2-0. 2 losses, 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with what Andy's just said there. For me, again, the only thing I disliked about it was the way the finish. I mean, I don't mind him tapping out, but again, as Joe said, I would have expected more of a struggle. The tap out seemed to be very, very quick than what I would have expected. I thought
way too quick. Way too quick.
It was very bizarre. But yeah, I think now it's just a case of elevating Gunther now to a different level. And now I don't think Jay will hold the title for very long. So, I think the match has done what it needs to do in terms of the shift in dynamics of where, the next players come in from here.
Okay, guys, we got 13 other matches we have to go through here. So I'm just going to piggyback on that really quick and say that I personally didn't see Gunther tapping out either. I didn't see it as a possibility. He's the ring general. He fights with his very life to defend this mat, this ring. And I don't know. Maybe they're afraid of him turning too much of a babyface and getting maybe like an Austin Mania 13, double turn or maybe just turning him at the same time. But we've seen this enough from him. We've seen him shake hands with babyface opponents on different shows after great matches, even on TV, not just house shows. So I don't know. I don't see there being a risk in Gunther tapping out. I think it would have actually made Jay look more dangerous and been more intimidating to have him as a champion rather than I tapped out quick because, I can get it back. But like I said, we got 13 matches to go through on top of this. This one, probably the most important one we're going to talk about, gentlemen. The New Day defeating the War Raiders to become the new tag team champions for the WWE World Tag Team Championships. I'm going to give you each 3 sentences on this one. And I'm going to start, okay? I'm happy New Day won. I don't get the War Raiders. I'm happy New Day won. Joe.
New Day rocks again.
That's it. All right. Each word was a sentence, apparently. Stefan.
I don't care. I didn't care. Next.
Stink, stank, stunk. All right. And Andy.
New Day absolutely suck. Didn't deserve to win.
Didn't deserve to win?
No.
That's hurtful.
No, didn't deserve to win.
No, man. Andy, for such a jolly guy, so bitter sometimes.
I disagree with that. I wouldn't say they didn't deserve to win.
These guys will never be Filipino, ever.
Not enough positivity. Not enough positivity. All right, interesting match here. Jade Cargill versus Naomi. I wrote this somewhere. Joe, I think I was texting you as I was getting ready for my Game 6 game to start that night. Naomi's new outfit and this whole new gimmick kind of has "this is my last year" written all over it, in my opinion. I see elevating Jade Cargill to a point where we can have a single star come out of her being an important thing. I think that's, we got to remember, whether you like, love, or hate it, that's the money that was invested. That's what they're buying in on with Jade Cargill. So it makes sense that she gets the win in this one. It was longer than I thought it was going to be, which, it wasn't an overly long match, but it did go longer than I thought it would. And overall, it served its purpose. Naomi is coming out a new heel, and Jade is being Jade. Joe is dying to get in on this, so go ahead.
No, I thought it was a pretty good match, arguably Jade's best match, and I put this on the Facebook page that she needs to go to the back and thank Naomi for that match, because that was a pretty damn good match.
Oh, I'm sure she did. And that's part of it too. Absolutely. And I think that's why Naomi was chosen as part of this whole thing as well, because they knew they could get a good series out of this. And nobody's ever said that Jade Cargill is like the next greatest in-ring talent, but she's got a presence, she's got a charisma. Andy, your thoughts leaving that match?
Naomi's outfit gave me Owen Hart vibes from the late 90s with the warning. I agree with Joe totally. I think that Naomi led the match. I think this was the best display of Naomi in ring. I liked the commentary as well, where they were saying this isn't a Funkadactyl anymore. This is someone who is paid her dues and is now earning respect. I think Jade Cargill has got a long way to go. But Naomi pulled a good match out of her, and it was surprisingly good for the two that were in the ring. And I don't think Naomi ever gets the enough respect that she deserves in the ring.
Stefan.
Yeah, I can't believe, once again, I'm agreeing with Andy regarding Naomi. Absolutely. You could definitely tell which of the two was the more seasoned out of the two of them. I thought Naomi controlled the match very, very well. She led it fantastically. Jade, yes, she's still learning the ropes, so to speak. I do question just how long do you really give Jade to get to where they hope she will get to. But for me, I was disappointed because obviously this was the first of the only two predictions I got wrong, because I thought Naomi, with this whole heel persona that she's doing, I really thought it would have been really good for her to go over, even if she didn't win the match clean. I thought Naomi's at a point now where I think they really need to do something more with her, because she's far more better than they give her credit for. And I do hope that we will eventually get to see a really good push for Naomi.
Probably the least surprising match result to come out of WrestleMania this year. United States Championship, Jacob Fatu continues his undefeated streak against L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Now, I love the time delay on this. We're all coming in with different yes. Except for Andy, apparently. There he is. Andy's like a minute behind. It's all good. But
I missed the cue.
Jacob Fatu did what he needed to do. I did like the fact in this commentary they sold the fact that LA Knight had competed twice the night before, essentially, by having the match restart as a tag team match. So it gave them an easy out. For him losing. They were selling the ribs on him and how can he possibly be in shape to take on the Samoan werewolf. Fatu continues to look amazing, from the entrance with the neat mask to just being Jacob Fatu, doing what he does. He hasn't changed much of who he is from the Jacob Fatu that made him famous in the MLWs and these other shows, other than getting in even better shape and being more agile, it seems. But was anybody here surprised by the result of this match, Andy?
Not surprised by the result at all. I think that Fatu is a world champion, up-and-coming world champion material. I think I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year to see Fatu with a WWE title. I think they were, to your point, Mike, I think they were very clever in how they positioned LA Knight coming into this match, and I can see the rematch taking place at Backlash St. Louis, Missouri. However, what I did like about it was the ending with Haku coming out and doing that, that sign of respect between Haku and Fatu. That was nice. This wasn't anything you didn't expect from a Fatu match. It was brutal. It was hard hitting. Knight sold it like we knew he was going to sell it, and it was the result I think we all expected.
All right, Joe.
Pretty much agree with everything Andy says. The other part I'll say, especially after seeing the Haku spot at the end of the match, Fatu is a massive baby face in waiting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Stefan?
Yeah, echo what the other two guys have just said. I think the thing from what everyone said was Haku just literally just jumped the rail, leave security, didn't stop him. I'm not being funny, but even if you're Chuck Norris, you move out the way for Haku. Look at who you are. Yeah, absolutely. He's a babyface in waiting. Big future world champ, absolutely. And this is one of the things I like, what you said, Mike, about he hasn't changed since, his MLW days prior to WWE. And this is what I do like about when WWE don't water anyone down. When they come in, they have a tendency to change things about them. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And Jacob Fatu is prime example of sometimes just let them be them. They will be the stars that you hope they'll be.
He has gotten a little funnier with the whole I love you solo thing, but we move on. El Grande Americano defeats Rey Fenix, a last-minute replacement after Rey Mysterio got injured on Friday. Okay, the UK guys are both either face-palming or tilting their heads back here. So, Andy, you were the first to nauseatingly roll your eyes. So, what do you think?
Rey Fenix debuts on WrestleMania. Rey Fenix loses at WrestleMania to Chad Gable. Why? I don't get it.
Excuse me, sir. Chad Gable is not in that match. El Grande Americano was in that match.
Excuse me.
If we're going to cover the phony sport, we're going to use the phony names.
All right. El Grande Americano should not have beat Rey Fenix. And Chad Gable was there. Seriously.
In spirit, absolutely. In spirit, absolutely.
I mean, all right. I might be reading too much politics into this, but the night that they announced they bought AAA and taken it over, you don't put El Grande Americano over Rey Fenix.
You don't set up a monster heel for AAA? Is that what you're saying? You don't set up a monster heel for that first AAA show?
Chad Gable's not going to want to go to Mexico all the time.
No, but El Grande Americano will.
To Mexico. Yeah, exactly. Mike's right.
Thank you, Stefan. Your thoughts?
To be fair, as Triple H said, big credit to Rey Fenix stepping in last minute. Having one match and then going straight into WrestleMania. It's great for him. I think the best thing about the match, apart from obviously how talented both guys are, was Michael Cole and Pat McAfee's commentary. The arguments over whether it's Chad Gable or not. Some of those lines that Michael Cole came out with were absolutely golden. They were brilliant. It was fun. It was what it is. And, El Grande Americano, he's got big things waiting for him, and Chad Gable only wishes he could feel that mask.
Joe Aguinaldo.
I cannot believe the disrespect that we're giving El Grande Americano. It was his first WrestleMania, too.
Thank you.
It was his first.
If anything, ladies and gentlemen, dare I say, a new streak begins.
Oh, come on. Seriously.
So somewhat being serious, I'm okay with Rey losing. Rey Fenix losing. He was a substitution in the match. So I don't think that hurts him. Although I understand, Andy, where you're coming from. But again, El Grande Americano is pretty awesome. Come on. The guy, that 450 backward thing, that was awesome.
Absolutely. Show some respect, Andy Evans.
And until we see 100% proof, I refuse to believe it's Chad Gable.
I'll tell you what. Tonight on Monday Night Raw, if you see Chad Gable do that reverse 450 thing that Joe's talking about, it's El Grande Americano.
And if we don't, then there we go. El Grande Americano is a totally different person. Thank you very much, Andy. We move forward now. This match was by far literally the banger of the night when it comes to physicality. I pointed out earlier on Saturday or Sunday, Joe, I texted you the photo, the screen cap from right after the match. She somehow got it. It must be a veneer or something because she got it fixed for the post-show press conference. But literally broken teeth, a giant welt on her forehead. But Tiffany Stratton leaves WrestleMania the way she came in as WWE Women's Champion. Joe, I'm going to start with you because you and I talked the most about this match already.
This match was amazing. This was my match of the night, and I'm going to compare this to like Jay versus Gunther. This is the kind of match I expected for Jay versus Gunther. Like Tiffany and Charlotte had heat. Whether it was a shoot or not, whatever you want to say, but that was a banger, and I gotta love that match.
They beat the dog snot out of each other. We move to let's go to Andy.
Match of the weekend, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I know we've got the main event to come, but this was everything you wanted it to be. Just like Joe said, they beat the living heck out of each other, but it made Tiffany Stratton legitimately a star. And to quote Michael Cole, she has got a Charlotte Flair career coming out of her. She was unbelievable. And everything from the minute they walked out, the confidence, the way she put herself across in the ring, she was a main eventer. She was brilliant. It was a classic WrestleMania match. It was brilliant.
But is she a good guy, Stefan Bennett?
Yeah, absolutely. This solidified Tiffany Stratton as a main event player in the women's division. I know there was a lot of talk going into it whether or not she would be able to look as good as what Charlotte has in the past. Would she really be able to hang with Charlotte? And I think she did so in abundance. And they absolutely tore out. This match was so much better than I expected. Now people, I think, will definitely put respect on Tiffany's name and will look at her in a different light now going forward. I think it was obviously the right decision to have her retain because I think it would have damaged her hype that they would have built up. And to be fair, there would have been so many people that would have been really, really angry if Charlotte had walked out as champion. So it's Tiffy time and it's legit.
All right, Joe? You have a thought?
Really quickly, you had asked whether or not she was a good guy or not. Tiffy comes across better right now as a heel. Like, I don't believe her as a good guy, so to speak. I think the reason she was getting cheered was because she was going up against Charlotte Flair, but I gotta believe, put her up against Becky Lynch or a Bayley or a Lyra Valkyrie or somebody of that ilk, Io Sky.
Sorry, did you say Larry Valkyrie?
No, Lyra Valkyrie or whatever her name is. So
CM Punk's dog came out and had a match. It was awesome.
Yes, Larry. No, but that's the thing. She still comes across with heel vibes, and like I like her as a performer, but again, depending on who she's against, I think she would be naturally the heel before being a babyface.
Well, we'll talk about Larry Valkyrie coming up with the Sunday recap. But in the meantime, all right, you were listening to the McGuire on Wrestling WrestleMania 41 recap. Mike McGuire here with Joe Aguinaldo, and coming to us all the way from the UK, Andy Evans and Stefan Bennett. Gentlemen, it is time for the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. And I've saved a bunch of time for this. We're going to record this in two parts here because we're just going to dive into this one, I know. So we're going to run out of time otherwise. But Seth Rollins, with the help of Paul Heyman, defeats Roman Reigns and CM Punk. I want to go start to finish on this. And I'm going to start, first of all, with the entrances. 3 incredibly different, incredibly suiting entrances for each person. Seth Rollins comes out with the devil to angel transformation, so to speak, coming out spitting fire literally, and then all of a sudden has the white light entrance to the ring. Of course, Roman Reigns, accompanied by those really cool drop-down screen banners that they used all night. It was kind of a throwback to, what was that? Was it 21? They had all the banners all across the, or was that 23? One of the two anyways, where they had all the superstars all across the top of the arena. And instead what they did was they used those video screens that could go up and down throughout the night, which was really cool, having Roman Reigns come down. The top layer, all Roman Reigns. The bottom layer, all the Samoan dynasty before him, which was really cool to see. And then, of course, CM Punk, you're never going to go wrong with Living Color Live. Corey Glover, at 60 years of age, still sounds like he's in his 20s. Vern on guitars. I mean, the whole band just sounded incredible. And what a fitting way to go in. I thought, if anything, they stopped a little too short. They could have kept playing while Punk was doing his thing at the ring. But, I mean, these entrances solidified, whether you think the match was or not, this was the main event.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a wonderful shot doing the rounds on Facebook at the moment of Roman Reigns during his entrance, where he's on the ramp, and above him you've got his father Sika, his face displayed, and it's an absolutely beautiful moment to see. That the timing of that was perfection to have Sika just above him. I think that was wonderful.
I thought you were going to talk about the selfie going around of Corey and CM Punk because Joe, as a musician, I don't know, are you guys either musicians as well? But Joe, we talk about singing and playing all the time here. Singing and taking a selfie, that's coordination.
That's insane. My respect level for that was like again, as someone who does both, like it's not easy. But if you're playing and you're doing one thing on one hand and doing the that's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, he wasn't playing, but he was still singing. So
but still, that's you're kind of, especially in front of 61,000 people.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's one thing
to do it in front of like 2 people, but you're at 61,000 people, millions around the world, and you're doing your thing. And then you're like, oh yeah, let me just do a selfie. No, that's some balls. That's pretty cool.
Okay, now. Guys, without going to the finish, I want to get your impressions on the match itself. What you liked, what puzzled you, that sort of thing. But as far as this triple threat goes, Joe, we're going to start back with you. As far as the match without the finish goes, yay, boo, what do you think?
I got to give it a yay. It was a good match. And like, you know what it was is that like they didn't overdo it. There's like a tendency with the triple threat matches, and especially no disqualifications and stuff, where you can overdo stuff. And I thought that this had for lack of a better way to describe it, the correct amount of chicanery going on. And again, I know you said not to get into the ending, but I just like the match.
Well, I'm gonna anyways. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I like the match overall. I thought it was okay. Well done.
All right, Stefan, you're there. Why don't we talk about the match and things you liked about the actual in the middle, the meat, if you would.
Yeah, I thought the match was everything. Like I said, we'll talk about we'll talk about the finish shortly, but it was a predictable match. It was exactly as I expected it to be, but I really enjoyed it. It hit every note that it should have, and I've got no complaints with this. A massive yay for me. A highly enjoyable main event that delivered on what it was supposed to.
And Andy, your thoughts on the meat of the match?
I can't really add much more to what Joe and Stefan have already said. It's a massive yay. These three, when they get in the ring, have got chemistry. Roman and Seth have got chemistry from the Shield days and the feud that they had. Obviously, Punk and Seth have got chemistry from the feud they had in 24. And Punk and Roman is a feud waiting to develop. So they all had it. And they were all at the top of their game. And this match, it was the shining moment of what was a lackluster night one. This was it. This was the pinnacle of night one. It was brilliant.
Which many would argue is what you have to do with your main event. Your undercard in any other event is not something you're supposed to be talking about. You're supposed to be talking about the main event. I loved that this match, for the most part, I mean, there was some plunder involved, the stairs and whatnot, but for the most part, there was a lot of wrestling that made, I hate using the term made sense, but Joe, I think I texted you this when Punk basically turned the Superman punch into an arm bar or a hip toss or an arm drag, whatever it was. Again, I was watching this after the show had aired, after the hockey game that I had just hosted. So I was actually watching it in a bar on my phone, but I did make a point to sit there and watch them. The server was laughing at me because I'm watching all of WrestleMania on my phone here. But I don't know. I thought with the right amount of chicanery, I mean, obviously they went out to the stands. The suplex onto the garbage can looked, if I may, gross. And then we had a lot of wrestling, though, that made counters believable and made them think to yourselves, okay, these guys really know each other. They've thought about how to get away from each other's big moves. I love Punk. The GTS is a great finisher. It's still one of the dumbest setups, though. Anytime you have anybody in that fireman's carry position where you have them over your shoulders, I always think it's the worst position because we saw it numerous times. Elbow, 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 I get out. It's one of the easiest moves to escape from. Sure, the actual hit looks good, but yeah. Overall, though, chef's kiss as far as execution goes. I thought there were many great moments in that. Now, gentlemen, we get to the finish with Paul Heyman seemingly handing the chair to CM Punk just to punch him in the nether regions with the uppercut. And then we see the chair passed over to Roman Reigns after screaming, "You made me do this," at Punk. And then Roman does something that I thought was great, gets a lot of chair shots in on Punk, so that takes him out of the finish completely and doesn't make him look weak, because it's not like he's just down from a kick to the ding-ding here. But it's now explaining why Punk won't be making a save. And then Paul Heyman, Paulie punch him in the ding-ding is what we're going to call him moving forward here, does the same thing, does the weirdest, and I got to remember we're on the clean feed here, does the weirdest post uppercut to the nads handy, we'll call it, motion, where he's like rubbing from side to side. I'm like, I don't know what effect that has, but whatever, it works. And then, of course, we see the turn with him eventually siding with Seth Rollins. We only got a few minutes left to wrap up WrestleMania Night 1. So, Andy, we'll start with you.
Oh, God, you could see it coming a mile off, but I wish it hadn't have happened. Although, I've all been for Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. I'm liking this new direction with Seth Rollins. I think it's going to work. It's a great partnership. But is it going to be needed in 6 months' time? That's my question to you.
I think it'll definitely be needed in 6 months' time because we have a new world champion that they can go right after, which will be kind of neat. Although we got to get through Punk and we got to get through Reigns, we would assume, on this. So we'll see what happens. Joe Aguinaldo, your thoughts on that finish?
I laughed really hard both times. I thought it was entertaining as hell, but you know what? If it was because it was Paul Heyman, I think that's what really made it entertaining for me. So I love the ending, but I will admit I laughed hysterically. Like, I laughed during the Punk thing, and then when he did the wiggle thing to Roman, I died. I was like, what is that? And I thought it was hilarious. So it was kudos to
new term for the show. New term for the show: the Heyman Handy.
The Heyman Handy.
Oh.
The Heyman Handy. All right, the guy that had this all called from the hops. I've been saving this for you, Stefan Bennett. You called it, man.
Yeah, it was for me. It just made sense. When I mentioned about the whole, Paul Heyman realizing that both Punk and Reigns had abandoned him during his time with them, and he had obviously suffered through those, I could see Rollins using some manipulation to get in Heyman's head. And when he said, "I owe you a favor," I just thought about it, and I thought, I can see this happening now. It's also a good way now how you can move Heyman now away completely from Punk and Reigns, a clean break, put him with Seth. And I'm really intrigued to see where this partnership between Heyman and Seth is going to go. And as you said, Mike, we've got a new world champion that they can go right after. And I'm sure we'll hear more on Raw when Raw's on. But yeah, it's, as predictable as it was, the execution was great. I chuckled with the Heyman Handy. We got to get on a T-shirt. But yeah, it delivered. I was fine with it.
You got to think, though, that's the main event of Backlash, right? The rematch.
Probably, yeah.
Versus Punk versus Reigns versus Rollins too.
Yeah, why not? It makes sense. Okay.
I've also looked at Bron Breakker now potentially being someone that could go after Jake.
Yeah, that's true too. He's down a title, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, you're listening to McGuire on Wrestling's WrestleMania Recap Roundtable. That's a lot of sounds. How about this? Why don't you order a T-shirt at CelebrateWrestling.com? There's 2 up for grabs right now. Or, better yet, save yourself some money. Join our Facebook page, and you can save yourself $5 on a shirt just by ordering directly through me on the Facebook page, Celebrate Wrestling. Add yourself there. You'll get a free sticker thrown in. We're going to be back with part 2 of our WrestleMania Roundtable coming up in just a few minutes. Hang on.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing, right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it, we hate it. The alternate commentary table, ACT. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
Shut. Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Welcome back to part 2 of McGuire on Wrestling 101. It sounds like a class, but it's literally episode 101 here. We are doing our WrestleMania 41 recap roundtable. Unfortunately, we are now a triangle table again, which is funny because if you were subscribed to the podcast feed, you kind of got a taste of this already yesterday, right after the show. Joe Aguinaldo, Stefan Bennett, and I went through our kind of overall feelings, but now we are picking it apart match by match. Andy Evans, unfortunately, has had to go give himself a Heyman handy or something. We don't know what's going on there, but no, he's got some other stuff to take care of. He might pop back in. We don't know, but we're going to continue with the WrestleMania 41 card. And again, some of your thoughts still to come with the WrestleMania 41 Yay Boo segment, thanks to your comments on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. Gentlemen, we made it through night 1 of WrestleMania 41. Night number 2 started off with a triple threat match for the Women's World Championship as Io Sky would defend her title against Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. You know what, Stefan? I'm going to get you to start here. Your thoughts of the overall match from entrances to finish.
So entrances, great. I really thought it was a nice touch. Bianca's stepdaughter dancing on stage and sort of giving her a hug during her entrance. That was a nice touch. I thought this match was a great opener. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Everyone looked strong, and I'm so pleased that Io came out as champion because, again, I don't think she was favourite to retain, and I think that she looked absolutely great. And I thought all 3 women were outstanding in that match. It delivered perfectly.
Rhea definitely getting the biggest pop as far as entrances goes. Bianca depicted a bit of a bad guy here. Joe, your thoughts of that match?
I'm generally not a fan of triple threat matches for titles specifically, but I love this match. I thought it was a fun match. It was a great opening match, and of course,
little throwback to Kai and Sky there. All right, well, you know what? I agree. I thought that the match was great overall. Again, WWE seems to have a winning formula when it comes to these multi-person matches, I find. They don't have people lying around as much as even they used to do. You know, that kind of became the formula where, you know, somebody gets beaten and they powder out, and then all of a sudden they're dead for like 3 minutes while everybody else gets their other sequences in. Whereas the amount of downtime doesn't seem to be as much. It's like all of a sudden, if you're in a triple threat, you have the durability of a referee. You know what I mean? It's like you get knocked down, you're out for like 5 minutes. Whereas if you're in a normal match, you're fine. But in these matches, it seems to be a little more paced. As far as Io winning, it was definitely the people's choice. The fans loved it. I think there were people there that wanted to see Rhea win, but at the same time, you know what? Keep it on Io for a while.
Yeah, it made no sense to put the title straight back on Rhea so soon. And to be fair as well, as you referenced, Bianca's reaction, a lot more boos than there were cheers. And I can see it coming from a mile off. There's an imminent Bianca heel turn coming very, very soon. To be fair, I think that would be nice and refreshing for her.
And do you know what? Match the heel turn of Drew McIntyre, for example. She would be justified. She won the Elimination Chamber match. She won the opportunity to be in a one-on-one match for the championship. She's been screwed over, so why not? I like that a lot. Speaking of Drew McIntyre, we move to a guy who perceivably screwed him over by cashing in with the Money in the Bank last WrestleMania, and that is Damian Priest in their Sin City street fight. I don't know what I was expecting in this. I was expecting them to be brutal with each other. To a degree, they were. To a degree, I thought they'd go even harder, to be honest with you. But you know what? Sometimes less is more. And I do think that taking an old school off the top rope through tables on the outside is hard enough. I think that's, you know what? Especially when you're a big dude like Damian Priest, you're going to hit harder. You're going to fall faster. So, Joe, we'll start this time with you and your thoughts on the match.
Agreed. I felt that this was going to be a brutal match, and I thought that they did enough. They didn't have to, with all due respect, suplex someone onto a spiked bat. They didn't have to go through barbed wire tables. I thought they told a pretty good story, although I will admit, I thought Damian was going to win. But other than that, I really liked this match. It was just a good fight.
Well, Drew winning does set up something we talked about earlier, Stefan, in a potential title run going against Jey Uso. He wants that belt back. He never felt that he lost it fairly due to the interference and the cash in. So maybe this is setting up Jey Uso's first challenger.
Yeah, I could completely see that. They have their history. There's still unfinished business there. It would make perfect sense. The reason I picked Drew to win the match was because he was due a big win on a big stage. Winning the title from Rollins last year, only to lose it 5 minutes later to Priest. As great as that moment was, he's had a very up and down year, Drew. So it delivered. The match was exactly what it should have been. They didn't need to go even harder with it and get too risky. It was brutal enough for what it needed to be, and it was highly enjoyable. So yeah, good props to both guys.
The only thing I'll say is that for a street fight, I expected a lot more, kind of what we saw in the triple threat from the night before between Rollins and Punk, especially, like a lot more going out to the crowd, a lot more really bandying about the selfie moment again. I mean, this is the WrestleMania selfie here of Drew grabbing his brother's phone and taking the selfie from ringside. Brilliant to a degree, but I mean, come on, you got to focus on but you're in a street fight.
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't.
Drew's personality coming through as a joker too. I laughed hard when the social media, the ping came up and he put a board at work again. I love that. It was a nice little throwback to last year. I see your point. But that's one of the things that Drew. It's nice when Drew can throw a little something like that in. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I was good with the selfie. I thought that was hilarious. So.
Save it for a house show. That's my thoughts. But okay, gentlemen, this was a very, very anticipated match. A lot of people were talking about this possibly being a match that stole the show. I don't know if it delivered to that level, but it was pretty great, especially for a mess of a fatal four-way. Like Joe, I'm not a huge fan of multi-person matches. Triple threats I can handle these days. But when you get to fatal four ways and, fantastic 5 ways and sinister 6 ways and whatever else, like it just gets to be a little much. As far as the fatal 4-way went, though, between Dominic Mysterio, champion Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, and Penta for the Intercontinental Championship. Stefan, we'll start with you on this one before I give the ultimately right answer of Dominic Mysterio being the greatest thing to happen at WrestleMania 41. But Stefan, please go ahead.
This was great fun. I really had a good time watching this. I tell you, I really think we have seen a wonderful page turn for Dominic Mysterio. That I loved the crowd reaction, that they were so pro Dom, and everyone sort of people getting booed when Dom looked like he was going to be taken out of the match, and I loved it. Penta, I think it was just a case of throwing Penta just in there. Ron's had a great run as Intercontinental Champion, and rightly so. He is main event level. I think obviously now I expected Dom to be the reason why Finn wouldn't win. I think this is where we're getting to that point now of separating Finn and Dom with Judgment Day. But it was great fun, and I loved the finish. And I love the crowd reaction. It's kind of a little bit of a sad bittersweet moment that Ray being a face, Dom being the heel, we can have a father-son sort of moment in the ring there, because it's a big deal for Dom, and I think the guy has absolutely deserved to have this accolade. He's had a wonderful couple of years building himself up, and he's becoming very established, and good luck to him.
Braun Breaker, a guy that could go 4 months without a championship and set up a program against Goldberg at SummerSlam. I'm just saying. There's another guy that could do that too, though. But
Brunberg. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Braunberg. I mean, the similarities are there. You could obviously argue that one. The Gunther argument is there. But come on. Hashtag Domberg all the way. Dominic Mysterio, your Intercontinental Champion. He goes in there. He's talking all the smack in the world. I'm the greatest champion to ever live. Yes. This could be something special.
Just because you mentioned Goldberg there's this thing I'm going to very quickly throw in there. There's a meme doing the rounds now of Bret Hart and Steve Austin looking at their trophy from the Hall of Fame for their WrestleMania moment now.
Right.
And the meme says Bret Hart checking to make sure that is actually Steve Austin, not Bill Goldberg.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my God.
All right. Okay. Well, you know what? Dominic Mysterio getting the huge pop for the win. I'm not sure if that was for the title change, or some people are saying, look, Dom is becoming a babyface here. He's becoming a fan favorite, which, how can you not at this point?
His reaction on Raw tonight is going to be very telling. If he comes out and the place goes crazy instead of booing him the moment he speaks, I think that might be very, very telling.
I think his reaction to Raws from now is going to be what's telling. Because we still got a lot of Mania fans there in Vegas tonight for that Raw. So, and I mean, Raw after Mania, they're starting to brand it as being an anything can happen all over again. So, we'll see what happens here. Okay, speaking of anything can happen, Randy Orton comes out looking for a mystery opponent. There's lots of chatter about this. Of course, Team Celebrate Wrestling, we were hoping for Nick Aldis. There's also a very interesting shakedown that comes from this afterwards in one of the post shows, which I will talk about in a moment here, but turns out to be the TNA World Champion in Joe Hendry. Say his name, and he appears. They even had T-shirts ready to go afterwards. It was crazy. So, Joe Hendry, yay, boo, what do we feel?
I liked it. I thought it was for what it was fine. I mean, he got a nice little pop, I think, and it was just
little
a fun
pop. I think they exploded for him.
I was being somewhat facetious there, but
Fair
he got
enough.
a good pop, and it was a good moment. Like they made the best of what they could do, from the Kevin Owens situation. So no problems here. And you know what? Good on Joe Hendry, man. The guy got a WrestleMania moment. That's awesome.
You know what? I think this has been longer in the plans than we think, because Owens has obviously known about the injury for some time. They obviously drew it out as long as they could. If you think about it, there wasn't really much physicality between him and Orton. So there's no reason why they couldn't have had this plan B laid out way in advance. Stefan, as far as Joe Hendry making an appearance at WrestleMania?
I marked out, I have to admit. I there was that, when obviously I wanted Nick Aldis, I was maybe expecting Rusev. Back in my mind, I was thinking, I would absolutely love Joe Hendry. It happened. I am a little torn over how it went down, because some people may go, just accept it for what it was. I felt that they did Joe a little dirty with how short the match was, and I felt maybe they could have showcased him a little bit more. But I'm so happy for him, and I know you're going to touch on what was said after WrestleMania regarding Joe Hendry, so I'll leave that to you. But I love Randy Orton at this stage of his career, where he's just having fun. To see him do his own version of the turn pose and throw the arms up as he does was great fun and great bit of respect. And, it was a wonderful moment and very groundbreaking to see a TNA World Champion performing on the grandest stage. It's amazing.
The Releasing of the Doves by Randy Orton, as it was coined by my buddy Kevin Jesus over 20 years ago. And yeah, Randy Orton got his moment. Now, I don't know if either of you guys have seen this clip, but there's a clip going around from the post show hosted by Sam Roberts. And I can't remember, was it Megan Morant that was with him or someone else was with him anyways? Karrion Kross and Scarlett were on the show. And Karrion Kross went into a very, very heated promo. Some would argue it's not even a promo. Some would argue it's a downright complaint, saying that he or anybody else should have got that spot, not holding any ill will towards Joe Hendry, but he literally tossed a "go bleep yourself" to the guy in the suit in the truck. So I'm not sure who that is, but bottom line, some people could say, well, yeah, why wouldn't a WWE guy get this? It's all about viral moments. That was the big complaint that Kross had, and he even signed it off as Killer Kross. Do you think he has a right to be unhappy, or is that exactly what this is now? We talked about it a little bit last night in our glaze over of viral moments versus things that make sense for wrestling fans. And where do you guys sit on that? Joe?
I think he has a point because we're talking about a wrestler. Like had that been some celebrity, Bad Bunny, I'll just use that as an example. That's one thing, right? Because that's going to get clicks outside of pro wrestling or sports entertainment. But Joe Hendry is the TNA champion, and there are, people sitting in the WWE that don't have a spot, i.e., Karrion Kross, Killer Kross. So I get what he's saying. But again, that said, as a wrestling fan, I dug the moment, but I do see where he's coming from.
I still think we're being worked as wrestling fans when it comes to that. But Stefan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's got every reason to feel aggrieved. He was done. They did him so wrong when they called him up to Raw from NXT. Then he got his release. I met him and Scarlett in Dallas 3 years ago for Mania 38, and they were during their release at that time, and I was having a conversation with them about I couldn't understand how they got it so wrong with him. And even now that they brought him back, the Final Testament thing didn't work. Obviously, 3 members of that faction have been released. And I'm just thinking, we know there is something there with Kross. There is something there with Kross and Scarlett. Why haven't they pulled the trigger? And, I think what he does do in those segments, he does very, very well. I was actually surprised they didn't put him against AJ at WrestleMania, because they've been building some sort of a program recently. I can understand wanting to get Logan Paul a match and that, but I was really surprised they didn't go with Kross versus AJ for WrestleMania. I just hope that they do finally pull the trigger on Kross, because I do think he's got a lot to offer. And I think it'll be a waste if this turns out to be nothing again. But I feel he's got every reason to feel aggrieved that they're not giving him these opportunities.
Well, we'll see what happens. Again, it could all just be an angle for the sake of an angle here. Speaking of AJ Styles, he had a match that, Joe, you described as probably the most least interesting to you. So I guess the most least is canceling each other out here, but you know what I mean. Between Logan Paul and AJ Styles. Logan Paul, in a lot of ways, and a lot of people keep saying this, has no business being as good as he is when it comes to wrestling, when it comes to getting fire from the crowd, when it comes to just being that general wiener. You know what I mean? The guy that nobody likes. And John Cena actually earlier today on the Pat McAfee show said this guy's doing it just by being himself, and that a lot of people need to do just that. As far as the match went, where do you guys sit on that one? Joe, we'll start with you because you were pretty critical about it last night.
The thing is, like, the match itself in the ring was fine. Arguably, a pretty good technical match. Like, Logan Paul can go, and obviously AJ's AJ. But, like, just from a story perspective, from a build perspective, I had no interest in this match. I mean, like, to Stefan, I'm going to call you Stefan, just because I like Stefan. Right. So, like, to Stefan's point, like, Karrion Kross versus AJ from a storyline perspective would have been way more interesting. And I know he got incorporated in the match to some degree. But that was why I didn't like this match. It was just, I had no investment in it, like, compared to the other matches on the card.
All right, Stefan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Joe. It was, for me, it was just there was the build. It was only thrown together pretty much 2 weeks ago that they really started building this. It just didn't have any significance. I enjoyed the match for what it was. I thought they both performed very well and worked well together. The thing with Logan Paul, my stance is very simple. I don't care who you are, what your background is, or where you come from. If you are willing to put in the work and pay your dues and to take this business seriously as an outsider, then all credit to you. And Logan Paul has been doing that. You know, he's shown that he can go into the ring against some of the best and he can keep up. So I've got no problems with that. You know, yeah, he's still an idiot for everything else, but, you know, fair play to him. And, you know, he's got my respect as an athlete and as a performer. He's paying his dues. He's earning that respect.
Well, you know what? That's just it. The way you get into WWE these days is different for everybody, it seems. And if Logan Paul's going to be that guy and he's going to draw eyeballs and he's going to draw heat and most importantly, make money, then that's, as a company, all you really got to care about. So we move forward now to the women's tag team title match, where you could argue those same things as to why Bayley was written out of this match and a returning Becky Lynch would come in to tag with Lyra Valkyria, or what did you call her? Larry Valkyrie earlier there, Joe?
Against Valkyrie, I think.
Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Of course, now we have new women's tag team champions. Stefan, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious. I think it was going to be Becky. There was a little part of me that was kind of hoping that maybe this would be where Alexa would maybe come back or something like that. I still wish I knew what they were going to do with her. But yeah, it was a great pop. Becky looked great. She hadn't missed a step. The match was okay. I'm very frustrated with the whole female women's tag championships. For me, they still just feel like they're just there. They don't feel overly significant. I don't know whether it's because the company are not doing very much with them. But yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I would have I'd rather have seen a women's Intercontinental Championship match or women's United States Championship match. Hello, Chelsea, on the card over that match, if I'm honest. But I guess if they're going to bring Becky in and give Liv a match at WrestleMania, it works. It makes sense to put that match there. So yeah, it was okay. It was good.
Joe, your thoughts on the new women's tag team champions?
Yeah, I mean, it was a WrestleMania return, and you know, Becky is over like Rover, and I thought it was for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. I will though say that I loved Liv Morgan's reaction when Becky came out, like that scared look on her face. And the fact that the announcers, I thought they did a really good job saying, you know, Liv took Becky out, and, you know, Liv's looking there like a scared little child. And I thought, you know what, Liv Morgan is awesome. So
it was like a throwback, wasn't it, to when Triple H reacted to Mick Foley Mankind taking off his mask and revealing himself as Cactus Jack. It works, and it is those details that can make something really work. And yeah, credit, as Joe said, credit to Liv. She sold that perfectly well.
So I just found some of the rants from Karrion Kross last night. Now realize some of this is in angle because he's talking about the moment he had with AJ Styles, where he's telling him, you should have taken out Logan Paul on behalf of all of us in the back. That's what he's saying. He was saying to him at ringside. So let's go to Karrion Kross from the post show hosted by Sam Roberts and Megan Morant. This is on WWE's YouTube.
Being a good soldier is coming to your hometown where you cut your teeth, where you got started, and not being on the card. It's all about viral moments now. That's what it's all about. Viral moments. Well, Guy, everybody's been telling me that I got to become undeniable. And as soon as it happens, they ignore it and they shut it down. I never asked to wrestle Randy. I never asked. That happened organically, and you ignored it for a viral moment. And good on Joe. Nothing against him. But you ignored it. And the crowd told you exactly how they felt about me on SmackDown when I was eliminated. And you ignored it. Become undeniable. My ass. My ass. You want a viral moment? On behalf of all of the true fans of professional wrestling, Guy with the suit and tie in the truck, go fuck yourself. That's from Killer Kross. No.
And there he goes, walking off. So,
wow.
Bit of truth there, bit of angle, throws out the killer cross there. Again, we talked about how there's things for different wrestling fans these days. We talked about it yesterday in our brief overview. I think that's for the diehards. I think that's for the you and me's who are looking for this sort of stuff on the internet here. And maybe we get something out of this. Maybe we get a Randy Orton versus Karrion Kross, or maybe we get a Randy Orton versus AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross, or better yet, we get a Logan Paul Karrion Kross, or Logan Paul AJ Styles Karrion Kross. I don't know what comes out of this. What do you guys think?
I just hope that I'm all for anything. As long as they finally pull the trigger on Cross, I just feel that he does have a lot to offer. The way he speaks is brilliant. I love the backstage stuff he's been doing, and I just think it's time now to really, really utilize him and give him a push. Actually, put him there in the spotlight, because they've just wasting some real talent there. So yeah, hopefully this is going to lead to something for him.
Well, let's not forget, too, when Triple H took things over as far as creative when Vince left the first time, Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, was one of the first rehires that he made. So, Joe, what do you think about Karrion or Killer Kross's rant there? Is that something we're setting up an angle with?
I think so. I mean, again, it's using a little bit of reality to push the work, I think is always a good thing. But they got to pull the trigger, like Stefan said. Otherwise, whatever.
All right. Finally, gentlemen, after Stone Cold Steve Austin damn near kills a fan at ringside with his quad, we move forward to the undisputed championship match. Cody Rhodes against John Cena. Well, we talked a lot about this yesterday, about how we felt after the match and after WrestleMania. The match itself, though, gentlemen, much like we did with the main event of night one, I want you to pick it apart. And Stefan, I'll let you go first. Your thoughts of the actual execution of Cody Rhodes versus John Cena.
Okay, so I rewatched the main event again today because I wanted to look at it with another fresh perspective. Because when you watch it live, you can sometimes feel a certain way. If you go back and watch it again, sometimes you can have a different view. I still think this is one of the worst main events. I have to say, it didn't deliver for the hype. The way it ended, I looked at Cody Rhodes last year at WrestleMania, went through hell in that Bloodline Rules match. He took so much punishment. He kicked out of so much worse than just a belt shot to the head. I felt it was a lazy finish. For it being a significant record-breaking, according to WWE, 17th championship for Cena, I thought it was too lackluster. I mean, I know I touched on after Mania when we were speaking about our fresh thoughts about the whole Travis Scott thing. Now, my issue isn't because I don't get the whole Travis Scott thing. I had no issue with Travis Scott being there, getting involved. What was strange for me was that a main event of this significance, Travis Scott was the only person that interfered, that had any, as an outsider. I expected more. I know Joe, and I do agree about, not overbooking the main event. I don't think they needed to overbook it like they did last year, although I thought last year worked fine for what it was. But for Travis Scott on his own, made little sense to me. If The Rock had been there with Travis, that made sense. Even if, say, for example, Rollins and Heyman had come out, and if that was the direction they were going to go in, if they're going to align themselves with The Rock, that would have made sense and made it better. But I watched it again, and it just didn't deliver for me. It really didn't, and I was so disappointed.
All right. Well, Joe, what do you think about the explanation? Michael Cole even said this morning on the Pat McAfee show, reiterating what he said on commentary, is that, you know what, not all of Ric Flair's world title wins were beautiful either. Is that a fair argument in this situation?
100%. As someone who watched Ric Flair and especially some of his later title reigns, I totally understand what Michael Cole was saying. But coming back to your original question about did the match deliver? Again, I will respectfully disagree with Stefan. I thought this match was great. I thought I'm not going to say it was like a 5-star classic. Don't get me wrong. But for what it needed to be, I thought it was good. it was a Cena match versus Cody. And I just like the story of the match. Although, admittedly, I was also very biased towards Cena, so it was kind of fun to watch that. It was weird because at certain points in the match, and I was, sort of paying attention to the crowd reaction, there was a lot of "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chants. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of "Let's go Cody" anywhere other than getting booed. So to me, this was still John Cena. This was a John Cena match, whether you liked it or not. And again, I just love the fact that they updated the record. Again, much love and respect to Ric Flair, who's still my favorite wrestler. Love the fact that they updated the title reigns. And again, I love this main event.
One of my signed championships in my office right here up top. That's Ric Flair's belt. Says, and he signed it 16 times champ. And
actually, you know what?
Nothing.
Let me jump into that. So I actually met him when his book first came out, and he actually signed it. 23-time world champion. So,
nice.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, when I met Rick a few years ago, actually, I think it was 2016 or something. I got a nice framed picture with me and him throwing up the floor, and he signed the outside, and he also put 16 times. Which, when I see Rick, I'm going to go, "You lied, sir. Put the right number down there, play." I wanted to cross it out and put the real number down.
That's tremendous. Okay, well, you know what? We did kind of dive a lot into this match last night. I think for me personally, it wasn't the be-all, end-all of WrestleMania matches. It wasn't the be-all, end-all of World Championship matches. But it was still the two biggest names in that company right now. And that is what matters. We talked a little bit about it, and Stephanie, you brought it up again earlier about not being so much interference in this one. And I still say, isn't that what we want? Like, I have a buddy who posted the exact same thing last night, and I was like, this is wrestling fans. WrestleMania title victories should be clean, no interference. And then WrestleMania fans, there wasn't enough interference. So we're just never happy, which is fine. I can accept that. And we only have a couple minutes left to go on this. So I will throw it out there that John Cena, in character or not, was absolutely right. After the Royal Rumble, he said that me winning the WWE Championship is what's best for business. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens tonight on Monday Night Raw and what happens in the future as well. But gentlemen, if you have anything else to say about this match, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just literally looked at my phone and something came up with, and I'm not going to go into it because I'm sure you and Dave are going to talk. Dave Meltzer are going to talk about this on your show anyway.
Go ahead. I saw what you said.
And I do kind of agree with him. For me, I think.
Well, you got to say what he said. He said that was not the worst, but one of the worst WrestleMania main events.
Absolutely. And for me, I think my opinion is what I want from a main event at WrestleMania changes from year to year, depending on the storyline, the build, who's in it, and the significance. I felt the decision was right, Cena to win it. I'm very interested to see what he means by he's going to ruin wrestling and where they go from here for the rest of the year. Until his retirement. It's going to be interesting to see where Cody goes from here. For me, like I said, it was just the execution of how it was done is what kind of just put me off, and I didn't enjoy it. But the fans overall got what they wanted. So there we are.
And there we are, our walkthrough of WrestleMania 41 match by match. We're not done yet with episode 101 of McGuire on Wrestling, though. Coming up, we close the show with your thoughts, our WrestleMania 41 edition of Yay Boo on this special extended episode. Thanks for being here.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Yay boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Final segment of the show. I need to thank this guy, Joe Aguinaldo, for being here for so much content this WrestleMania weekend. So thanks for spending the time, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yay.
It is that time. Yay Boo, brought to you by Mike and Joe, because we don't have a sponsor on this yet. But if you'd like to sponsor it, give me a call. All right, Joe, as we do customarily, we offer fans the chance out there to reply on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page with a yay or a boo, and then show their work as to what they thought about the pay-per-view or PLE, which we have witnessed. And this time, we gave them the opportunity to rate both nights of WrestleMania 41. We were going to do each night, and we're like, there's enough of that going on out there. Less is more, which, again, is a lesson that I think more people need to learn. However, I will say this, starting off with one big yay comment that came in from a couple people, actually, was yay for a reasonable amount of time for the shows.
It's funny you say that, because at the end of the day, night one was 4 hours, which, if you don't include a 0 hour for AEW, that's as long as an AEW pay-per-view is.
Yes, but they don't do this all the time. And that's WrestleMania.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right?
So there's that.
In a world with 3 hour TV should be at least a 3 hour show.
No, that's fair.
And they did have some time wasters in there as well, and I don't mind that. But I mean, Sunday night was 3 3/4. They were done early, if anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The one thing is that it didn't feel like a chore to watch the show, right? Yeah. And that's both nights. So kudos to them on that.
And I think it's because you get to plan ahead in your mind too. This is WrestleMania. I know it's going to be long. I said this before, though. We know WrestleMania is going to be a slog to watch. It used to be a slog when it was a 5-6 hour show on its own.
Yes,
and that was uncalled for. I remember actually getting a little sleepy during a match at Mania 29. That's the last one I went to.
Right.
And as much as I can't believe I'm saying this, I'm pretty sure it was Brock Lesnar Triple H. Getting a little dozy during that match.
Some of those Manias, when if you were a hardcore fan that watched the entire day, that was a 12-hour commitment sometimes.
Oh, and if you had to watch the pre-shows and everything?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. If you were that fan, that was a 12-hour commitment, and it was wow, no, that's it. I'm okay.
And I think we got to the stadium that day at 1 p.m. because it was starting at 3 or 4 New York time. 3 probably, because
this is the New Jersey one, right?
Or no, this would have been it would have been later. It would have started at 5. But yeah, I just remember trying to get in the damn doors and then trying to get merch and then getting to our seats. We had really good seats, but trying to get to our seats and everything else, it was a day.
Yeah,
and by the time that show was over, I don't mind these smaller chunks, but again, I'm trepidatious about going to a 2-day WrestleMania because I know that's 2 of those days back to back.
Yep.
Just watching it is fine, but putting yourself through all that extra stuff, forget it. Hard pass on a lot of that. But you know what? Never say never. It's not about us, though, Joe. We've rambled on enough with our opinions. It's about you, the listener, and you, the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page member, which, again, free to join all this stuff. We just want to hear from you. Make sure you're a real person. It just takes a second. If you're one of these accounts that has, 10 followers and no other associations or anything, you're probably not going to get in. So if you're using a burner account, I'll know. But anybody else, come on in. And we don't care what your views are as long as you're not a jerk about it. That's all that matters. So let's get to the reviews here. Joe, do you want to start top of the list here and we'll go down?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Our pal Sal, he put a whole bunch of stuff in here, but overall he said this was a yay for him, and he went through a few of the matches, specifically Rhea, Bianca, and Io Sky, and the Cena beating Cody Rhodes.
Okay. I want to go to our pal Jake from the Windy City. He says this is an overall mild yay for him. So is that what is his name from Family Guy? Bruce from Family Guy? I enjoy the WrestleMania. It was all right. Not too much, not too little, just the right amount of mania. Okay, let's get to Jake's actual comments here. It says, it seemed like this Mania as a whole has been a vice versa. Night 1 had an underwhelming undercard, but had a tremendous main event. Thus switched night 2 with a much better and more entertaining undercard and a lackluster headliner and finish. See, I still think part of this is by design. These guys aren't dumb. when they're putting this stuff together. But we continue. Absolute fast-paced opener tonight, too. That was as great as I was hoping. Continuing to tell the story of Bianca and Rhea overlooking Io, with Bianca being the power wrestler. Rhea showing her brutality, and Io showing her speed and aerial skills. No dead spots. Happy Io won. That would be probably my match of both shows. Turned out that Austin had a fender bender, and he missed the entrance ramp when he was supposed to drive. Okay, that's what took so long with him showing up. Apparently he had trouble getting up the ramp.
Yikes.
All right, Nick Khan checking out how much of a fan he needed, or how much of a check he needed to write down for damages. Yeah, I'm sure he was making sure they weren't getting sued in that moment is what's happening there. Finally, what benefit did John Cena have with siding with The Rock? It was teased to have something, and Rock was nowhere to be found. I'm confused more now, and also, wasn't it Meltzer who first said it's likely Rock would not appear? I think he's owed an apology as far as I'm concerned. Dave did say that. Dave said that Rock was not slated to be there. We don't know where Rock is. I think it's interesting, though, because the more you miss something, the more you start to forget about it. And maybe they didn't want the typical cheer that Rock gets when he comes out. Because even though he's a bad guy, even though he's the final boss, when he comes out, he gets cheered. And they're trying, and Cena was already getting cheered enough as it was for the guy that's supposed to be the bad guy in this thing.
Oof.
So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, it could be anything. Like, Rock's schedule is definitely something you got to think about. But I don't disagree. I think that, I think it was the SmackDown before Mania when Cody and Cena were in that last promo. There were moments in that promo where Cody got booed resoundingly, and it wasn't even close. And even, again, I brought this up earlier, the match with Cena and Cody. Let's go Cena. Cena sucks. Nothing about Cody. That's not a good look for Cody.
Well, I did read from some wrestlers who were making comments about it that it showed just how over Cena still is.
100%, and that's what I mean. And like that's not I don't mean to knock Cody, even though it sounds like that, but like I remember, or think about it, if everyone's talking about one or chanting about one person in the match, shouldn't the other person be a little concerned about that?
Cody Brown, yay, although the ending felt like a bit of a letdown. Where was Dwayne at? Is Travis Scott his proxy? Yes, I think he's sending Travis Scott by proxy. And then Mike actually followed up, said The Rock hasn't been mentioned directly since Elimination Chamber. He's been referenced, but never in a way that makes me think he's going to be part of the story. Turns out he wasn't anymore. It's one thing to not do a match or even anything physical. It's another to not appear at all. Yeah, that's an interesting point.
And I'm going to come back to this whole Travis Scott thing. Like, again, you'd mentioned it before. That's not for me, you, Cody Brown, or Mike Marquardt. That is for the casual fan who knows who Travis Scott is. And again, I appreciated the fact that we didn't have The Rock and Travis Scott and Undertaker and Rock's mom and Cody's mom. Like, no, this was fine for what it was.
Well, and to be fair, too, WrestleMania 40 is a tentpole WrestleMania. It's a big number, right?
Yes.
Not saying that 41 doesn't matter, but sometimes we need to scale back things. And if we don't scale back, then you run into the position of having nothing be special anymore. So again, how can I miss you if you don't go away? Is one of Jim Cornette's famous lines he likes to say all the time. And I think that's the case with The Rock. If he doesn't go away, how are we going to miss him? And he's really away right now. So,
yep, for sure.
We'll see what happens here. Sweet Vinny B. Don't worry, Vinny. I got something coming for you. No, I got to give him a shout out. He's a big LJN collector and seller and everything else. And he is the guy that hooked me up with a Heart Foundation LJN set in like damn near mint condition.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I haven't showed you the picture yet, but I'll send a picture of him to you. But anyway, he's collecting WrestleMania hats, by the way. So if you're on the group and you have a WrestleMania hat, he's already got 6, like WrestleMania 6. So I know there's a lot of Canadians that might have that one. And I think he has 18 as well. But I am going to send him one of my 29 hats because I got 2 of them when I was there. And I don't need 2 WrestleMania 29 hats. So Sweet Vinny B, that's on the way. But back to his comment here. He says, I judge WrestleManias by WrestleMania moments. The Heyman double cross is the only moment that's going to stick for me. Really dislike the new production style and insertion of advertising into ring attire and entrances. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. He also says, love spending time with family and friends, watching an entire weekend of wrestling and eating way too much food. Sadly for me, it's a boo, especially after how strong Elimination Chamber was. You know what, Vince? I like that you said all that extra stuff too, because Joe, as you know, my entire WrestleMania weekend plans changed, and I do miss watching Mania with family or friends, and I got to do a little bit of that for Sunday, but because the Saturday night situation changed everything, it was actually going to be me hanging out with the Greeks up in Calgary. And so, I mean, it's still different. And getting to talk to you guys and girls listening to this now, that's still a way for me to do this. But, it's different when you're watching with people as opposed to watching on your iPad while you're repairing socks.
It's funny you say that, because for me, and this has been my wrestling experience pretty much my entire life, none of my friends are into wrestling. Like, none of my family are into wrestling. So, like, I've been watching Mania alone for the last 41 years. You know what I mean? So
that's fair.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I do have friends that like wrestling, but like, I don't go out with them to go watch it. And, this was obviously Easter weekend. So even if there had been that opportunity, it's Easter weekend, right? So
yeah. Well, I'll never forget watching the Royal Rumble once at a place called Bartari, which no longer exists in Saskatoon now. At least I don't think it exists anymore. Anyway, and they were doing the Royal Rumble, and I was there watching, and it was when Becky came out and took over. What was it? Dana Brooks or Lana's? It was Lana's spot that she took over, right?
Right.
And we all started singing Becky's theme when she came out. Like, so there's definitely a different energy when you watch it.
For sure. 100%.
Anyway, you know what? Thanks for saying that, though, Vinny, because I think that's the important thing we got to remember is that this is still something to watch either with yourself and enjoy or with friends and talk about it like we are now. Richard Brown, great guy, listens in Manitoba, says, overall, yay, women's three-way with Bianca, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky took night 2, in my opinion. Love the turn at the end of the men's three-way night 1. Yay for Joe Hendry, Jacob Fatu, and Drew. Yay for all the Hall of Fame inductees. Yeah, Lex Luger not there for that night. For the tip of the hat to all the inductees that they do at WrestleMania. The word is, and I'm not saying this is true or not, but the word is, he was at WrestleCon that night because the pay was better. That's what I'm not saying it is or not. I mean, he did say that he got hurt coming out of the Uber or something there when he came to the Hall of Fame. There was supposed to be a longer walk on the stage, I guess.
Right.
But he's still rehabbing. He's still, I do hope the best for that guy. And nevertheless, that's why reportedly Lex wasn't there, is that he was still at WrestleCon, but we don't know for sure. And let's not speak
right on
too poorly about the guy.
Speaking of people, I'm going to give my buddy Chris Hodnott a shout out. He's my friend at work. He did have a bit of a long post, but he says overall a yay. He did point out specifically the three-way Ripley versus Belair versus Sky. Said it did not disappoint. He was big into the street fight, and he actually did like the main event. Said that it was a solid match with lots of good storytelling.
Okay, continuing with your yay boo feedback, let's go to Craig Usher, who says an overwhelming yay for both nights. Amazing 2 nights of WWE. Loved each match and story. Incredible show altogether. Really enjoyed this show. Leading up to it, I was tuned out and they hooked me back. Very entertaining, epic main events. Definitely look forward to what's next. John Cena is the greatest of all time. You know what? Here we are. We're all like, oh, this was that, blah, 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 blah. Dude enjoyed the show, and isn't that what we're supposed to do? Just sit back and enjoy?
I'm going to call Craig an honorary Filipino after that post. Way to go, and Craig.
For those that don't get that, Filipino positivity, something you and Mark Andrada started years ago. How did that? Because that was before my time. Like, was that just you guys just...
You know what it was? I think it was because when we were doing the old show and another incarnation, our most respected benefactor would just say that I was way too positive. And he was the one that coined the term Filipino positivity, because Mark would also be very positive about Raw. And you remember back then, Raw was really bad.
Raw was awful. And then we had to take the reins over, and we discovered just why they were such grumpy people.
Like he was like cheering Dana Brooke spots. That's how bad it goes.
We named our show Tuesday Morning Cook in honor of Mark Andrada, because they would talk about how much they had to, or what they ate because they would rather talk about that than Raw. So, but Tuesday Morning Cooked is, you know what, we might be doing kind of a version of that tomorrow with the Greeks. Perhaps. It might be Tuesday afternoon cooked, but either way, we're going to talk about the Raw after Mania if anything overwhelming happens there. Okay, let's go to Devin Axman, who said, ultimately, I would have to say a boo because of the lack of intensity for many of the big matches, especially on night one. I guess Jay is not for me, but show some fire, brother. Thank you. Some for New Day after the greatest heel turn of all time, supposedly, and then you have a third-hour Raw match on probably your last big Mania match. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of who they were paired up with, though. Again, I feel the War Raiders have missed their steam. You know, that train came and went a long time ago, I feel. And unfortunately, they were still the Viking Raiders or whatever the hell they were. Anyway, back to Devin's comments here. The no reaction from the crowd was proof there's no hit besides the boo sound button. I did really enjoy both triple threats and the street fight, but many of the matches didn't live up to the hype for me on your biggest show of the year. Sunday fell off a cliff after Joe Hendry's cool appearance. Ultimately, I thought it was another boring PLE from the, quote, greatest booker of all time. Okay, nobody's calling him the greatest booker of all time. He's had a good run, though, where largely fans pop for entrances and not much else. However, a big yay to Brett for how he handled the handshake from Triple H. Chef's kiss. Okay, I will try and I don't like bringing this stuff up to him, but I will ask him at some point, and somebody will probably beat me to it, and that video will make it online. I don't think it was such a whoop-de-doo. I think if anything at this point, Brett's probably surprised that he's shaking hands with Triple H. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And have you seen the video? Like so Brett like kind of just raised his eyebrows and looks off to the side after shaking hands with Triple H, right? I don't know. Knowing the guy I know, it's like he's probably just more surprised than anything that he's there and he's being recognized for this sort of thing. I don't know though. Maybe he doesn't want to tell him to saw it off. I don't know.
Maybe, but at the end of the day, like I didn't make too much of a thing about it. I mean, this could just be old school wrestling fans being old school wrestling fans, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I've always said if you're gonna hop on the Brett's Always Bitter train with me, you're listening to the wrong show. But at the same time, I mean, I've seen the bitterness. I've seen thing, and honestly, it's not so much to do with Bill Goldberg. I think it's safe to say this, and I'm not gonna paint him in a bad picture, but I think Owen still affects him more than anything, and all the stuff around there. So I don't want to dive too much in that because that's not what we're talking about here. But I did find the response to that handshake kind of funny, and I enjoy seeing what fans like to think of that sort of thing. So thank you for that, Devin. Stephen Perry says, overall a boo. Most matches were just okay, not a WrestleMania feel, though thought Gunther should have gone to sleep, not tap out. I said the exact same thing earlier, if you remember. Also, with the ring so far from the stage, the entrances were long and also did not have WrestleMania feel due to the distance. Even Jay's fireworks seem as an afterthought since they were so far. Having the fans sitting on the stage was cool, but I did feel the same thing. Unless you were looking at the top of that tower of video screens, you missed a lot of the pyro.
Yep.
You missed a lot of pyro. And some of Roman's pyro, they didn't even shoot at all. When he got to the ring, you didn't see any of it. So, I think as cool as it was having fans seated on the stage, it does make them a liability for pyros. That's why they had everything far enough away from those people, obviously. But I think that actually kind of ruins the big show feel of that stage. For a stage that big, it felt to me like it should have been blowing up more, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Okay. Chris Holt says, yay for me overall. Night 2 was far better, though. The smile on Dirty Dom's face post-winning was nice to see. Night 1 felt slower, trying to explain to my wife that the main event had no title, just 3 men vying for the love of a 60-year-old walrus man made you realize how it being the main event hurt the show. Jacob Fatu being immense was fun on night 1. And John Cena's new entrance graphics were also a highlight. Yes, nobody's talked about this yet. The John Cena Plain Jane, black screen, white letters entrance.
Yep.
Wonderful.
And not only that, I love the fact that he just holds the towel behind his head and just walks to the ring. He's not sprinting. He's not doing, his, let's go, Stu, or anything like that. Just like, business.
It was almost like ho-hum Cena. Like, okay.
Yeah.
I have to walk to the ring. Okay. I have to out-wrestle this guy. Okay. I'm the champion now. See you later. Bye-bye.
And speaking of which, did you catch any of the the press conference afterwards?
I watched very little of it. I'm planning to go back and watch it, but I know he was answering some questions.
No, he was not. Every time someone asked him a question, he would say, "That feels like clickbait. The next question." And then so it got to a point where someone was like, "Hey, this is so and so from ESPN." And he's like, "ESPN, respected news outlet. What's your question?" And the guy and these were like, how does it feel to be the 17-time world champion? It was like that kind of thing. Yeah. That feels like clickbait. Next question, and that's all he answered his questions with.
I will say this then, because all I did see was him saying that I've been told that it's in my best interest to answer questions. Mm-hmm. So if anything, he was doing. Was it NFL or NBA players? There was that one guy.
Yeah. I got to be here or I'll get fined.
Yeah. That's exactly what it feels like to me then. But I will say this: he was on the Pat McAfee show this morning and did about 20 minutes or so, and it was a very, very good stuff. He avoided talking anything about his character. He avoided talking anything about what's to come in his storyline, and he even said, "You're asking me to spoil the show. I'm not going to do that." Nice. But he talked about a lot of other things, and he talked about a lot of other wrestlers as well, and had nothing but flowers to throw a lot of guys' ways.
So did he talk at all about Acme versus Coyote?
Not that I saw.
Damn it.
I know. Thanks. Now I have to edit that out. All right. Let's keep going here. Our friend Bob Hunt, or as he's known on the Mike McGuire show on 98.1 The Ranch, over analytical Bob, actually giving a very, very concise answer here. He says, "Yay, because I'm probably supposed to be offended that after Cena and Cody's entrances, we cut to the Cone Zone, where Cole was selling for the OG ice cream drumstick that was, quote, taking over the main event. I need to be reminded that I'm watching wrestling sometimes, and I can't help but laugh in the best ways when things become a parody of themselves." Bob, I love you, pal. I love that you listen to my radio show as well as all these podcasts, and you support the pages and everything else. But Bob, so help me God, if you besmirch the drumstick ice cream treat, we will have words.
Yeah, there's certain things that are sacred. And
we will have words. Look, I'm a diabetic. I eat the things. They put me to sleep. I'll still eat one. You know why? Because it's a drumstick. And
they're awesome?
It is the OG of the drumstick ice cream treats. I acknowledge you, drumstick. As I raise a one.
All right, speaking of OGs, I'm going to give our friend Blaine Vandergreen.
Here we go.
Shout out.
Here we go.
So, overall, he gave the show a yay.
Yep.
And he thought that night 2 was significantly better than night 1, aside from the booking of the main event. He said night 1 had its moments, but other than the final 2 matches, it didn't give him WrestleMania feels. He was unimpressed with Jay versus Gunther, which I think a lot of people have said. And he said that the match that turned out to be a pleasant surprise was Tiffany versus Charlotte, which 100% agree. And he said that ultimately he felt that night 2 had more WrestleMania moments than night 1.
My only beef with the Tiffany versus Charlotte match, other than I still think that Tiffany needs to be a heel.
Yep.
They were both wearing such close-looking outfits. And because I was watching a lot of it on my iPad or even on my phone because that was night 1, and this is going to make me sound like a dithering old man here, but I legit a couple times got confused who was doing what move to who.
No, dude. Because
I'd look away because I was getting ready for the game, and then I had to look back, and I was like, okay, who did that to who? What? Okay.
And that was the thing. Like, I watched this primarily on my laptop. And I didn't have it full screen because I was also on the Facebook page. And like there were points where it was like, is that Tiffany or Charlotte?
Yeah. Which I mean, no, you can't confuse the two once you look at them side by side. But
no, but when
they're in motion,
yeah, exactly. When you're looking at a small screen, both of them have blonde hair. Both of them move well. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta, it's like, that would have been nice to see them wearing something different. Like, even if one of them had, like, a blue outfit on, for example, right?
It's like if two hockey teams both came out wearing their white jerseys. You know what I mean? Like, that's just screws you up. So.
Yep.
Okay, well, you know what? For the most part, Andy Lewis gave it a yay overall as well. That was on the discussion thread itself. But there you go. That is our take from your feedback, yay boo, on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. And we'll do it all again for the next PLE. But Joe, I want to thank you so much for all your help this week, as always.
No worries. Also, for the record, I will give this one a yay because of night 2.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think we've given enough of our opinions now. Jeez, we're almost an hour and a half on this show. So, all right. Hope you enjoyed it, folks. We're back with regular shows next week. McGuire and Wrestling 102 on the radio and online. Until then, happy Raw after WrestleMania. Thanks for listening and letting us do what we do. Play safe, drive safe. Be seen ya.
McGuire on Wrestling, online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.